right, so today we have with us Miss Shayla Racquel, writer, director, creative, and just all around dope person. You know, we had the opportunity to meet a couple of years ago. I think you were still living in DC before you moved to Atlanta. Just thoroughly impressed, glad to be in your world and to be working with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For sure. So you're a full-time creative, full-time director. And to do that, to pull that off, it takes a lot. It takes resiliency, it takes courage, it takes bravery, it takes a community. It takes all of those things. It even takes a little bit of luck, prayer.
Yeah.
And so before we even get into, all of that journey, can we just talk about like where it all started? I know you're from the South. I know you're from South Carolina. Just give us a little bit of how, that upbringing in the South, charted your journey into a creative career.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina. We call Columbia, South Carolina the 803, the Met. It's interesting, right? Because anywhere else in the nation, I'm considered a country girl, but in South Carolina, Columbia is actually considered the city of it. But I'm a down south country girl through and through. I grew up with like horses right next to my grandma's house. So I think with that upbringing, community is just so important. We have, like, our family all lived on the same street. My mom lived like 5 minutes from my grandmother's house. So like having that upbringing and having like family always just there for you, that instilled in me how important community is. And so it was just a no-brainer to pick a profession where community would be a huge ordeal and collaboration would be a huge ordeal. So I think that kind of went into me knowing that I could become a filmmaker because it's such a collaborative process and it's such a community-based process because I had that upbringing. My family is big, it's huge, it's very, very close-knit, and we love each other, we support each other, we pour into each other. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. No, you're doing great. So in those, let's say those first 18 years of life, when
Yeah.
you're under your parents' roof, like what was that spark? I know maybe you tell me, was it at 5, 6 years old? You say, oh, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be a writer. I want to be a director. So where was that spark and where did it come in?
So when I talk about like the spark in me, it actually came from the way we were brought up in Columbia, South Carolina. So Columbia was kind of segregated. It's like built into districts. District 1 is predominantly Black, sometimes low income district. You have like District 2, which is more like ritzy, and so on and so forth. And I grew up in District 1. And at the time, let's think, it's like the 90s or whatever, there was a big national political push to remove the arts from schools at that time. And so my school district, because it was predominantly Black, they saw the humanity in the arts, how important it is to like how arts instill the soft skills you need, like adaptability, communication, critical thinking, creativity, and how those things are really what you need in order to just do well in society and just be
A
a
complete
good human
person,
being, a
right.
good person. So when the nation was pretty much taking the arts out of all of the schools and trying to just more so get children to focus on STEM, my school doubled down. Instead, my elementary, middle, and high school, what they did was they injected the arts into every aspect of the curriculum, whether it was like math, science, the arts was somehow built into it. And so being that exposed to the arts, there was just no way I wasn't going to become a person who would want to be a part of that, especially because I was always just I feel like I was a shy, but a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, energetic child. So it started from the beginning. Like I'm talking 3 to 5 years old because of that type of community, going to an all Black elementary, middle, and high school, which doubled down on those arts. So I was on stage, of course, like in my church doing the Easter plays, but also when I was in elementary school, I was on stage from first grade all the way through all of my grade school. I played instruments, I danced, I sung. I was at the time just all around, and I don't think I think what's interesting about that is I didn't have the words to like verbalize exactly what I wanted to be, but I knew it was something dealing with the arts. So I didn't say, if you would have asked me back then, did I always want to be a director? I probably would not have said that, because I probably would have said something like doctor, because that was what, even with all of that, that was the cool thing to say, or the right thing to say, the stable thing to say. But I knew I wanted to do something within the arts. I was writing since I was little. I was directing since I was little. I was the eldest of 7 grandchildren, and so I was directing them because they didn't have no choice, So, yeah.
So obviously your parents were supportive
Absolutely.
all the way through, because in a lot of cases, and even speaking, of mine, it's all fun and games to be into the arts, but when it's time to go to school, it's like, oh, you got to get that real job. Especially in the Black community, where it's like a lot of people in our generation, maybe first generation college students, attending college, and of course our parents want the best of us. They just want us to do better than them. And so I think there's a lot of fear in pushing your children, especially maybe in the 90s, to, okay, go full speed into this. And so that's great that they were supportive.
Yeah, I don't ever remember a time where my parents or anyone in my family was unsupportive in the things that I wanted to do. If I picked up a camera and I was like, I want to do a short film, my family was pulling up the stops to come and be in that short film. I do think, and it's important to note that they still told me like, okay, well, make sure you consider these things before doing so, which, is admirable. It's like, okay, you want to do this, but also make sure you consider all of the risks that comes with it. But know that we are here to support you. I know if I were to like lose all my money, I can go home right now and I have a place to stay. I'm not here, it might get annoying, but I know that I have a place to stay until I get on my feet, and then they're gonna be there for me as I lick my wounds, and then they're gonna push me to continue on that path. They're not going to be the type to say, well, maybe you need to stick to something a bit more stable, because that's just not how my parents were. They have always been they've always like honed in my my creativity from every aspect of it. They were always there to like push me. I said I sung. I probably couldn't sing a lick, but my dad took me to the little Nickelodeon thing to sing on that stage, and I probably embarrassed myself, but my dad was there paying the $50 to let me do it. So like, I think that's so important to have that. I think that's also what motivates me, because I know I have a backbone. Like I know I have some place where I can fall back to, and just in case anything does go wrong.
No, that's a beautiful thing. And that's something I think, outside of what we do as creatives, outside of filmmaking, just in parenting, like having your kids back and them having the confidence to go out and fail forward.
Absolutely.
They know, like, without a doubt, you can take risks, and you're not going to be ridiculed or criticized for it. So now that's really dope. So as as of course you have that foundation, you have that support from your parents, you're writing, you've been doing it since you were 5, 6 years old, you're getting older, you're a teenager. What was like that first piece that, you took on that, that you really put a lot of time and energy, it just wasn't a weekend thing? What was that project?
That first one, I would have to do the 10-year-old one. That was probably the one where I was like, oh Lord, like this is dope. I love this. We were challenged as like we were in something called AJ Lewis Greenview Opera Company. So we were singing, I guess. And we had to put on a play. And so they basically created like this makeshift writer's room of 10-year-olds. And we all had to like pitch ideas on what this play would be about. And then we had to write it. We have to write the songs. We have to write the music. We have to do the set design, the wardrobe. Like we had to do everything as 10-year-olds. And I pitched a story about, it was really about sickle cell, because I have sickle cell disease. But then I think we ended up like massaging it to being about like this quirky play about like health and like what's happening in your body. And we wrote like rap songs and sung and all, like we just went all out. But the fact that I pitched that and everybody was like, no, let's do that. That's dope. And then like we wrote the songs and did all those things. I think that was like that little spark, you know? And eventually that kind of grows into like, the flame that turns into like this huge fire that's in me now. But yeah, I would say that one. But I feel like I can't like do that one without mentioning the high school one after that, which was a play called Louis High. I had a drama teacher, her name was Miss Blanchard Johnson. I think at the time I was more so thinking about being an actress, which I do not want to be whatsoever. But at the time I wanted to be one. And she was real with us because we were black kids in District 1. And she was just like, I know all y'all want to be actresses and basketball players and all those good things, but I really want you all to learn stage management. I really want y'all to learn production so that you can be just well-rounded in case acting doesn't work out for you. And I was like, okay. And so I wrote a play called Louis High, and it was basically what we as high school students in the 2000s was going through. And she loved it, and she was just like, let's put it on. And she gave me all the resources to direct it, and I starred in it as well. And we put it on and had the whole community come out, and we ran it in an auditorium. And to this day, like my friends from high school talk about that play and how we pulled that off. And yeah, I think those were the moments where I was like, this is what I want to do, especially directing that play.
Yeah. And so then you were off to the races and you
Yeah.
knew that's what I was gonna do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you finish. All right, we're gonna do a speed jump. So you graduate, and now it's time to make some, these grown-up decisions of like, okay, what am I really gonna do? And me knowing a little bit about your background, of course, I do know you attended film school. Talk to me about that process and any projects that you worked on to really make that jump
Yeah.
into film school.
Yeah, so graduated from FAMU, went straight into the workforce as a IT help desk support. Hated it. Hated everything about it.
All right, let's back up. Why did you choose to
major in IT.
major in
Major in
IT
computer science.
and computer science?
Because
And you have all of
though
this,
I
you
had
have all of this passion and flame for directing and creativity, and you choose
because there's still a
IT.
bit of realism there, right? I had sickle cell disease. I knew the doctor bills were piling. I still had I was still very much so had an adult mindset of like, I wanted stability. And even though I had very supportive parents, I also did not want to burden them. And what's interesting is they probably wouldn't have even thought that I was taking that on as like a 17-year-old, but I was. I was saying to myself, like, I need a full ride scholarship. I know I could get a full ride scholarship majoring in computer science. That way my parents don't have to worry about me when it comes to financing my undergraduate degree. Like these were the adult thoughts I was having as a 17, 18-year-old.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I was telling myself, okay, well, it might be the road less traveled, but we could major in computer science and then make film a side hustle. And that's what I did at FAM. Like at the time, I was the only one with a camera. DSLRs wasn't a big thing. Everyone wasn't running around with a camera. And I had a Sony HDV 1080i on film tape. So I was a filmmaker. Like I had to digitize. Like I was a real filmmaker, and I was the only one at the time doing it. I was making side money, but I was also getting this degree that I knew was a bit more stable because I just felt like that was important to me, like to just have something to fall back on, just so that my parents wouldn't have to worry about that. I'm saying that and knowing that they would probably thought like, I can't believe that was even a thought process for her. Well, they know that, but I can't believe that was even a thought process for her. Because I had a little sister too, and I knew she had to go to college and all that good stuff. So yeah. So that was like college, and that's how I did, like, it was my side hustle, making videos for businesses and organizations around Tallahassee. Graduated, took a job in Washington, D.C., working for the government as help desk support. Hated it. So this is where like the roads kind of like diverged, because while I was working full time, I was putting a plan in place to make being a filmmaker a full-time thing. So like I had talked to a boss and she had moved me from IT help desk support to video teleconferencing. So I could still kind of practice like camera work. It was like live production, things like that, but not necessarily like to the extent of this, but you know, for like the government
Right.
agency. But while doing that, I was doing the research of like film schools because I wanted to do narrative. And every film school that I researched was like, you need a project. Like, yeah, these cute little videos you did in college are cute, but you need an actual narrative project if you want to be a narrative filmmaker. So then what I did was I got my friends together and we created this web series called Quarter Century. And what was the beauty of Quarter Century was that it was during the Black web series boom. So it was during the same time as Awkward Black Girl, Black and Sexy TV, where like we were all using YouTube as our platform in order to create the stories that we wanted to see.
Right.
And I'm very, very proud that we were a part of that. We hit like over 500,000 views. People still hit me up about Quarter Century to this day. But that project is what got me into film school. And things just kind of took off from there.
I'm gonna back up a little bit. Something you said just really like wanted me to stop and give you praise, because I think that whole story you told about, you know, making that decision to major in IT, you know, even though film was still, you know, your passion, it just showed me that you are selfless. You put yourself, you know, you definitely put yourself and you're thinking about others. That's something you knew you had the love and support of your parents. You probably could have made that jump and had that conversation. But I think those are traits, you know, just my little bit of time in this business. Those are the traits I see in directors that really puts them, you know, at the top and have people respect them, because you're thinking about other people. You're thinking about your crew. You're thinking about your cast. I'm thinking about your talent and just everyone on set. So I just wanted to stop and say, no, think that's dope. And there's no one path, you know, as we know, everyone you know in this business has a different path to success or their path into the business. And, you know, that one was yours. And I don't think it was right or wrong. It was yours, but I just did want to say that's admirable.
Thank you. I like to attribute that to also just being a woman, a Black woman. Like I think naturally we as Black women, society forces us to be selfless. Like I'm not taking that away from like that being a natural trait, but just being a part of that identity, that community, we are molded into selfless beings. And so when you just tack on the label as filmmaker, it's a bit easier to become selfless and to become more collaborative, because that is something that is instilled in us as Black women from birth, you know.
That's just part of the magic. So when these two worlds diverge and you have
hardest time of my life. I was working full time.
So you got Quarter Century, you're part of the web series boom. You know, you have an audience, you're working full time in DC. No, one, like, how did you make that work? And when did, you know, you come to the realization that, okay, film school is what it's gonna be?
You know, my quote that I always say to people is, I worked a 9 to 5 to pay for my 5 to 9 until my 5 to 9 could become my 9 to 5. And that's literally how I worked for 10 years. Like, though I was working full time for the federal government, as soon as I would get home from work, I was writing, I was in film school, I was doing projects with my film school cohort, I was doing videography for like clubs and like businesses around DC. I was really like immersed in that life because I knew this is something that I wanted to do full time one day. And so I was okay with, you know, the stresses and the sleepless nights, because I knew that it was going to mean something later. And so started film school in 2013, still working full time. I did a couple of projects that within film school that did really well. My first one was Life's Checklist, which was a short film where I tackled millennials' love for marriage.
Are you ready for this?
I should be asking you that, Mr. Stewart. You feeling those pre-wedding jitters yet?
We got 4 weeks.
Don't tell me you're getting cold feet.
Nah, I'm ready. As ready as I'm ever gonna be.
and did that with like a little twist. And that film was like that first film that actually won awards. So that was when I was like learning about the film festival circuit. And then after that, my thesis film, I think what's special about my thesis film is that I remember hearing Spike Lee say that your thesis film should be the project that propels your career forward. So don't like, can I curse on here?
Of course.
Your thesis film is the project that should propel your career forward. So don't bullshit your thesis film. Like pour your all into it to make it really something that could be your calling card into the industry.
Yeah,
And
Spike doesn't sugarcoat. I have a Spike Lee story. I'll share later.
And I was like, I took that to heart. Like, I heard that and I took that to heart. And so I started my thesis. It was a project called Riverman. I started writing it in like 2015. I was supposed to graduate in 2016, so it was only supposed to be a year. But the project was so massive that it actually took us until 2018 to actually finish the project. So I pushed back my graduation 2 years in order to complete that project, all while still working full time.
What were some of the challenges, that caused it to?
Man,
What were those challenges and how did you overcome those? Money.
Money is always going to be a challenge when you are an indie filmmaker. So that was like one of the biggest. But I will say, like, when we first started, because it was such a massive set, this was like my first one where I think the crew itself was like 70 to 100 people. We're all film school students, and then also just like people around DC who just wanted to do something narrative, because DC didn't have a big narrative filmmaking space. Corporate. So everyone wanted to be involved. And that first shoot, when I tell you everything that could possibly went wrong. We like some of the equipment got water damage. We had a sponsorship with Sony, so they had us using their new cameras, and then the camera just broke, and we lost $5,000 worth of footage that day. And like literally everything that could go wrong went wrong. And so what we ended up doing is just stopping and saying, all right, we need to lick our wounds. We need to regroup. I think that was like October. And then we need to raise more money because we spent all the money trying to get, because we did a Kickstarter for like $21,000. So we stopped, got ourselves together. Me and the producers got back in the game. And then like that March of the next year, we tried it all over again after doing a few successful fundraising events. And we got that project done, got a couple of grants through other schools where they were offering. Berkeley School of Music was like the top music school in the nation. They gave me, usually you only get one or the other, because they love Riverman so much, they gave me both, a grant with sound design, a grant with music. So basically their students used my project as a thesis, and did beautiful with the sound design and music. And ended up finishing that project February of 2018. And I'm still eating off that project to this day.
I mean, it's a beautiful film, so congratulations on that. Just really well done. Where, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about it, and where did the, motivation and where did the motivation come for that to be the thesis? Of course, it had to be something that meant a lot for you, because you persevere over the course of 3 years to make sure it got done. So why was that one so important, and why did you choose that one?
Yeah, so Riverman is a story about a former civil rights activist who fears for the safety and sanity of her granddaughter when her granddaughter decides to follow in her footsteps of activism. And so it's a conversation between two different generations, those who are part of the civil rights movement and those who are part of the movement today, hashing out the differences, but also stating that at the end of the day, we still need each other. You have the blueprint, but we got to carry the torch because the youth inherits the movement. And then also, how does the civil rights people who went through the civil rights era feel about the fact that their grandchildren are having to have to carry out that movement?
Death of Aquila Washington.
Oh, my Lord.
Washington was a student
Marie!
at the university.
What?
We're here speaking with a few of her friends. Your names, please?
China Baker.
Kieran Carter.
Renelis Alvarez.
Can you share with our viewers more about the organization that you and your friends founded?
Yes, we created a student-ran organization called the Black and Brown Liberation.
Since then, we have been working tirelessly to gain national attention to this case.
And to make sure that Officer Nolan Hudson is held accountable for his actions.
That's right.
Do you really believe that your organization, coupled with tonight's protest, will spark any real change?
anybody?
Well, my grandparents were civil rights activists. If they didn't believe in what they were doing,
If they didn't believe it would eventually spark a change, then we would not be here speaking with you today.
And it was inspired by a conversation I had with my grandmother. Like I said, I'm from South Carolina, born and raised. My whole family's from there. So I grew up listening to my grandmother talk about both my grandmothers and my grandfather talk about like what it was like growing up in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, which was like height of the Jim Crow civil rights movement in South Carolina.
Right.
And so like
South.
yeah, this is the real deep South
Right,
here.
right.
So listening to their stories, I was always racially aware. Like I was always like, down, fight for my grandmother. It was either my grandmother or my mother, I don't remember, but they took me to my first march to get the Confederate flag down when I was 9. And it just came down, a couple years ago. So like having that instilled in me, and then like going off to college where, FAMU, you're going to do some marching at FAMU
Right.
too, what I'm saying? Where my grandmother was cool with that. It was like, it's a confined space. It's still safe, but then you marching in DC, it ain't confined no more. So having that conversation with her and her saying, we did those things with hope that you wouldn't have to. I thought that was such an interesting thing for her to say, this person who instilled this much in me. And so I said, I want to, instead of doing like a documentary, I want to explore that in narrative form. And that's how River Mint was born.
So you say you're still eating off that today.
Yes.
So I'm assuming, that's your management still using that to book
my
jobs. So
yeah, that film got me in my my management, but also acquisitions, right? So like the beauty about going to my film school, which is American University, that a lot of the bigger film schools don't have is they don't own my work. So like whereas like a FSU, NYU, USC, I believe, and I might be mistaken, when you do a project, they own it. So everything you say or want to do with it, it has to go through those channels. I don't have that. I actually own that piece. So I was able to put it in whatever film festivals I want. I was able to let it go wherever I want because I own the rights to it. And because of that, that has literally propelled my career forward. I got management. It has been on Fox. It's currently, it got acquired last year by Comcast Xfinity, so you can watch it on Comcast Xfinity. It's been in 40 Film Festival, has won over 20 awards, including a student Emmy. And yeah, every year, February, March, Black History Month and Women's History Month.
oh yeah, it's on.
I'm getting a call about River Mint.
No, it's a timeless piece. Like it's intergenerational. It touches on a topic that we're still talking about, and we're probably going to still be talking about it to our kids, right?
Yeah.
So no, I think that was you were right on the money with that one. So you know what you're doing, point blank. So since you know what you're doing, as a director, the leader of a set, let's talk about a little bit your directing style. What makes your directing style unique? What do you bring to a set? And what do you think you could tell other directors, maybe the young Shayla that's watching this right now about, directing styles and just what you bring to the table? Of course, you not have to have the technical piece. You have to know that to an extent, but what else are you bringing that makes your set special, you think?
Sunshine and sparkles. I had a friend who told me like your sets feel like love, and that's so important to me because I want my sets to feel like love. I want my sets to feel like family. I don't care if we are just meeting for these couple of days. I want you to be able to have foundation and find family and someone on that set and also enjoy the moment and have fun with it. And that is something I hope to accomplish with every single set that I lead. One thing about me is I'm very much so a collaborative director. I respect every filmmaker as an artist in their own right. And so I'm not a micromanager. Like I hired you for a reason. So I want to see you shine. Like I'm going to give you the vision, but I want to see how your vision and my vision can come together and make something beautiful, which is that's different from a lot of different directors who are very much so like, this is my vision and I'm hiring you to execute this vision only. me. And I think that makes my set so much more collaborative and fun because people feel when they are a part of my projects, they feel like it's their project too. And it is. I want you to know that it is your project too. This is just as much as yours as it is mine. And neither one is more so than the other. I feel like I bring a lot of sunshine and sparkles to sets, and it's a lot of fun. But we do have the technical and creative piece as well. I have like my signature shots. I call this the Shayla Racquel wide double Dutch shot that I like to put in every project that I'm in.
Give me an example of that shot.
I've done it in 3 projects so far, but the one that's probably the most prominent is the lifted and crib lore. And it's basically where you use a wide angle lens and you do an extreme close up on the person, but you start it at a Dutch angle, a 45-degree Dutch angle. You have their head tilt the opposite of the angle, and then as they move their head this way, it tilts the other way. And I do that for like the moment before. It's like indecisive, intimate moments, but those moment befores, like as a indicator of shit's about to go down. So yeah.
And Lifted, was that the scene
Where she was after she came out the club and she took the vape and she was like watching her and she did that.
That was a nice shot. That was dope.
You need some salt. All that Tanqueray you've been drinking.
Technically, I'm on the keto diet I was telling you about. Girl, I lost 10 pounds. Can you see it?
What can you eat on keto?
Bitch, air.
See, that's what I don't understand about these young girls. She can barely walk straight. Where are her friends?
So you're bringing sunshine, you're bringing love to these sets. But how do you get there? I know a lot of creatives have their own thing, whether it's prayer, meditation, yoga. What gets you in the zone?
All of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a strict morning routine, which is interesting, like because I don't do that morning routine when I'm about to go on set, but I do it every day, and I think that prepares me for a set because it's a de-stressing thing. I know how to ground myself. I have sickle cell disease, so grounding myself and de-stressing is so important because that could cause triggers. So I do yoga every morning. I meditate every morning. I pray. I have a prayer journal that I write in every single morning. But then I also lean on music. So I have a playlist called Boss Up Playlist, and we run it. We run it whenever, especially now. I definitely listen to before set.
So what kind of music's in the Boss Up playlist?
Alien Superstar, Beyonce, Sierra, Level Up, lots of Nicki Minaj, anything that could just make me feel like motivated and empowered and just ready to take on what the project that I'm about to take on.
Right. Nah, love it. No, I mean, I'm similar. I have a routine, and when I don't do it, like if you skip too many meditation days or you start to feel it, it seems like your day just doesn't gel like it's supposed to. And so, no, I think that's really important. Whatever that is for you is definitely not one way, but I definitely can relate to that. So you talked about, seeing all filmmakers, well, not filmmakers, but everyone on your set as an artist in their own way. I want to go back to that just for a second. Let's go to talent, like bringing the best out of talent, your actors and actresses. Talk about that relationship and, how you've been able to develop that over the years.
Wow, that's such a good question. Well, one thing is I don't see my actors as like, yes, they're talent but I don't see them as like someone who's working for me. Like I see them as human beings and I approach them as human beings. And because I come from a theater background, I understand the mindset and also the mental gymnastics that you have to go through in order to be a good actor and pull out the emotions and the things that you want to convey on screen on cue. And so because I know that very well as an experience, I lean into that knowledge and I just make sure that my actors feel comfortable with me. Gail Bean said in a post, she was like, Shayla's an actor's director. Like, one thing about it, two things for sure. I'm going to make sure I get the performance, but I see them as an artist in their own right as well. And I trust that they're also doing the homework. I may have my way of wanting different things to be pulled, different emotions or things to be pulled out of them, but I also want to see what they have first. And then let's come in a collaborative way to see like how we can make this as dynamic as possible. So that's how like I approach. And I've become friends with my actors. Even it's interesting, like even when I don't have that much time, I still end up becoming good friends. I did not have that much time with my people on The Lifted. You don't really get that much time with any set, but getting to know them, asking like, asking questions about like their life, just even having like some type of foundation life background that I could just utilize in order to pull from. Because one thing about me is I'm not I want you to be like director. Like I want you to get there. I want you to understand like the beats in the scene, and I want you to get to the emotion that you feel like should be conveyed there. And I'm coaxing it out of you. So, and I think that helps get such greater performances. So yeah, I'm friends with pretty much every. I haven't had a bad set yet. I mean, I'm sure as my career continues, I haven't had a bad experience with an actor or actress yet. So.
Yeah, but when it happens, you'll manage it. I don't think it's going to be something that it's going to destroy your set. You'll manage it, and you obviously surround yourself with good producers and good people. So it's going to happen, but you'll definitely be all right. You mentioned Gail saying you're an actor's director. Are there any directors that you look up to, or any director-actor relationships that you look up to? Like, of course, there's Scorsese and Leo. There's, you can say Spike and Samuel L. Or, are there any that just come to mind that you admire? And maybe are there a follow-up question to that? Are there any directors that you pull from in what you do?
Yeah, so I can name my top 3 directors that I pull from, and that's Gina Prince Bythewood, Rick Famuyiwa, and John Singleton. I think if you look at my style, what I gravitate towards, those 3 kind of embody that. Like I feel like those 3 combined make me as Shayla Racquel. And I'm thinking about like the actor-director relationship. I love Spike and Samuel. That's dope. I don't think I have like a favorite actor director's relationship, but I have a favorite actor DP relationship.
Okay.
And Ava DuVernay and Bradford Young are my 2 favorite are my favorite actor DP relationship. Not actor DP, I'm sorry. Director DP relationship. Because that's so important to me. Like having like a dope DP that I know I could like lean on, and like I could send them my stuff, my script, my deck or whatever, and they be like, yo, let's get it, let's go. And we just like collaborate so well. That I think that's such a beautiful experience. So yeah, Ava and Bradford Young is beautiful to watch.
That's a good one.
Nah, Bradford Young is dope. He lives in Baltimore, just like very much so away from Hollywood life. That I think is really, really dope.
Okay. Something we didn't touch on that you talked about a little bit is just the collaborative nature of filmmaking. And as we all know, that we can't do it by ourselves. A director can't do it by themselves. A producer can. A DP can't. It takes that complete team. In addition to that, I think there's also, if you go out another layer, like your community. And we talked about that when we opened up the interview. But talking about your community of filmmakers that you work alongside and coming up with. Talk to us about the importance of, your community, whether, these are friends, and like you said, they do become your friends. We all work together all the time. And why is that so important for maybe a, aspiring filmmaker or creative to understand that piece?
I think that goes to what Issa had talked about a while back about like working horizontally, because this industry is so built off of who you know. And so the people that you're working with, the circle that you create, they're all like building, and we're building together, and that who you know is going to be your circle. You know what I'm saying? And so I think establishing that community and leaning on each other, being each other's safe space, calling each other when you have a new project, instead of paying the $125 to blacklist or cover fly every month on your feature, sending it to your friend who's also a screenwriter, or your friend who's also a DP or director, and having them read it and give you that feedback. Like, I think that is so important, because it strengthens you, but it also strengthens you are also playing a part in strengthening everyone else, and you're really building together. I remember when I started film school, they straight up told us, like, your film school cohort is going to be like your production company, and we really became that. Like, to this day, I still get opportunities from my people within my film school cohort. We work on each other's projects to this day, and they've gone off like, one is a producer at NPR, one is a producer at Washington Post, but they know if they need something, they could call me. I know if I need something, I can call them. And then, like, just moving to Atlanta and just building this, especially because I feel like I've built such a solid Black women in film group, and we all just like leaning on each other. We cry together, we laugh together, we watch movies together, we break things down, we give each other tough love, and like we just pour so much into each other that the growth process of seeing our friend grow and just like shouting them out and just loving on them, and then like when they grow, they pull you in, and now you're growing with them. It's just a phenomenal process to watch, and I'm just happy to be a part of that.
Nice. Okay. One more question with that. You talked about Atlanta. Just tell me why Atlanta is so dope for the Black filmmaker community. Because, we all have had our experiences, and, we shot across the country. We shot in LA, and we've done work in New York. But what makes Atlanta special? Because, speaking for myself, I'll go to LA and I'll bring our Atlanta crew with us, or I'll go anywhere else, and it's an all Black crew. And I'm talking about top to bottom, working at the highest level, Black excellence all the way. And it's funny, we'll get other Black people in the business that are come up to us and say, we just don't see this. But I think, where we are, and I think what this city has meant over the generations, it's been Black excellence here for a long time. And I've seen it just transfer into, our industry. So, and I know you moved from DC to ATL. So was that one of the deciding factors? You could have gone to LA, you could have gone to New York, you could have stayed in DC, but why was this the place?
One, because Atlanta is like the mecca of Black Southern culture, and I'm from the South, and I wanted to feel that energy again. And then two, man, the people in Atlanta are hungry. There's a hunger here. There's a hustle here that, you do projects out in LA and they all say it. They're like, y'all it's a different, I can tell you from the East Coast, it's a different type of like hunger and hustle and like willingness to just go above and beyond and get it done and make sure it's of quality that I feel like Atlanta just embodies. And so it was a no-brainer. Like, I could have went to LA, but why, when I could be 2.5 hours away from South Carolina and be immersed in what I feel like is my culture, being immersed around Black Southern folks who are just as hungry as I am, just as driven as I am, and just as talented and creative to like just build with. So it was a no-brainer for me to come to Atlanta, and it's been lovely. It was one of the best decisions I've made over the past couple of years.
No, I love it that you're here. I want to work with you, and I know the city loves that you're here and everybody else. And, as we wrap this up, what would you tell, the young Shayla at, 10 years old?
I would tell young Shayla that all that quirkiness and all that quirkiness and weirdness and love for the arts, like, no matter what anybody says, stick to it, stay the course. Stay the course. It's all gonna pay off one day. You are uniquely you for a reason, and you got this, baby girl.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us. This was amazing. Oh, and this was the first episode, so we made history.
That makes me nervous.
Thank you.